When you see pictures of China President Xi earlier in the week visiting one of these rare earth facilities in China, is the world right to be getting concerned about what the trade dynamics could do to that valuable market? And if so, what's at stake here?
Well, I think the thing that's being missed by both the trade rep and by the marketplace is the fact that China doesn't need to cut off United States in order to create a real harm to the U.S. effort to rebuild our high technology industrial manufacturing sector. China has shown that they have this other strategy that I think has to be considered immediately, which is the ability of them to charge a much lower price for rare earths within China than the price they're charging outside of China. And this is something they did in 2012. It was stopped by the WTO. But the fact that they're building this Belt and Road Initiative is going to put them in a position eventually where WTO membership may not be so valuable to them. And the moment they leave the WTO, the first thing one should anticipate is that they will make rare earths maybe a tenth the price inside of China than the price outside of China. So companies like General Electric, who requires a lot of rare earths, and others like that, move their manufacturing to China. China is not so much concerned about... Yeah, please.
I was going to say, you just said a lot right there. I want to dig into it a little bit more, but I know you spend a lot of time in China and speaking to to officials in China, as well as the administration here. Do you believe that China could actually pull out of the WTO?
Well, the concern that American Elements Lisa advised our customers is to be concerned that with the Belt and Road Initiative, they may find the WTO membership is too restrictive. If they have the ability to, again, charge a tenth or some very low number for rare earths inside of China rather than outside of China, you're going to see movement to China. And China is very smart. Their concern is not so much just building up their GDP and building up Chinese companies. It's about jobs. How do we get jobs to China and away from other countries? Because that establishes a country's standard of living for their populace. And that really is the game for China. It also creates the potential for creating technology transfers and other valuable things for China. The critical aspect of this is that we need, in our bilateral discussions, to make this a critical position that China will not charge less within China than they charge outside of China for rare earths, because their monopolistic position allows them to do that. As long as the price of rare earths are consistent inside and outside of China, it doesn't really matter where prices go, which people seem to be concerned about. It's just keeping an equal playing field so American, European, and Japanese companies can compete with Chinese manufacturing.
So your customer list here in the U.S., it's literally a blue chip list. It's GM, it's GE, it's Apple, it's Lockheed Martin, it's Boeing, it's United Technologies, 3M, Johnson & Johnson, and the list goes on here. What are the types of conversations you're having with some of these customers right now? And if you did see this price disparity take place as the trade war mounts and say China does leave the WTO, what would that mean for American manufacturing?
If we don't have a bilateral agreement that says that they can't charge a different price inside and outside of China, it's going to cause real harm. It's going to be the equivalent of what labor was 10 years ago, in that the Chinese labor costs were so low, companies didn't have an option other than to put their manufacturing there. Now we've got alternatives outside of China for labor, so this is another tool in the Chinese tool chest to get companies to consider moving their facilities to China as opposed to setting up in the United States, which is what we're trying to do. It just creates that kind of leverage, and we've discussed that with our customers. We have an advisory letter that goes out, and we've notified them that this concern's there and that they should do what they can to get the White House and the trade rep to bring this into the bilateral discussions. That it's critical to the United States.
Are you doing that? Are you planning to build out more in China because of these tensions, or are you doing the opposite?
Well, we've been in China now for over 2 decades, and I'd like to think that my relationships with the Chinese government are quite good, as our American Elements, I should say, not me individually. So we're having discussions with them about how we can retain our position in the facilities that we're involved with. The one thing also people may not realize is that China nationalized all the rare earth production. We used to have a facility in China. It's now been rolled up into something called Baotou High Tech, which is a publicly traded entity in China run by the Chinese government. So we're advising our clients to basically stay in touch with the government, stay in touch with the trade rep, and make certain that we get this dealt with. Because there really is no alternative. They have over 90% of proven reserves of rare earths. It's plate tectonics went very well for China, and so that gives them a leg up that we have to deal with contractually. I mean, we really have no choice. There's a facility being built, or a processing facility being built in the United States by Linus to bring materials here, and people are saying, oh, well, we'll have access to rare earths, thinking that it's really about an all or nothing situation, but that's not the way the Chinese, they're smarter than that. It's really going to be a price differential that's going to be the issue.